Manning here, filling in
Hey,
the host seat for John Zannis. Jimmy Toscano back after a weekend off. We're back in
what
the
up?
host chair on Monday night here.
Jimmy, you
Remote
caught a good
Celtics down
one.
in Grizzly.
There you go.
Celtics taking on the Grizzlies here. It
Getting
was a good one.
losses. It was a great one.
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
one,
you got those batches of L's. That's right.
this one got close there at the end. Now the Celtics had a nice enough cushion where you knew that the math wasn't really going to add up on the Grizzlies pushing through there, but you had another 20 seconds to that game. Yeah, if they could have gotten a full court heave off. Now, a big factor in that closing sequence where the Grizzlies go on a run to within 3 after trailing. Celtics trying to put the ice on the game at the free throw line, missed 4 straight there. A couple of travels from Brown and Grant, a couple misses from Brown and Tatum, and Celtics go well over 3 minutes without scoring before the Grant free throws that ice this one, as well as Tatum's. And the Grizzlies were just walking the dunks. Bane gets a second chance 3. All of a sudden, they're within 1. And you have to, like I said, ice that game out with the free throws. And the Grizzlies still had a chance there after trailing by 7 with 1:44 to go. Almost one of those epic collapses that you saw from the Celtics in Game 7. I thought that was a pretty good comparison by Grandy when he threw out there. And a couple of these stretches this year where the Celtics go on these offensive droughts. You even saw it in the third quarter there where they go 2 for 11 from 3, I believe was the number. Grizzlies raced way back in it after trailing by 11 at halftime. But similar to the last 2 games over the weekend, the Celtics had some lapses in those second halves against Chicago and New York, but they hold on and they get the stops when they need to. They get the buckets, the free throws when they need to. It's actually kind of funny that they missed those 4 free throws because they came into the game tonight number 1 in free throw percentage. So they've taken care of business there as well. But overall, your thoughts from this one, Jimmy?
My thoughts from this one. Jason Tatum is a very bad man. This is Showtime Tatum. We've gotten many looks at it this season. He seems to have elevated his game right now, and he looks like the Tatum that we saw for large stretches last season.
This is a hard hat game, Jimmy. Where is it?
No, soon. It's still early,
This is the thing. A lot of people need to know this about the hard hat. See the hard hat until the playoffs. That is a play only.
I feel like it was out for a couple regular season games last year, although those were big games.
It's not. That's fake news. The hard hat is right. I can see the hard does not go on the head.
Look how intense he is right now.
It's the playoffs. But I want to say this about Tatum. It's not just that he's scoring. It's the way he's doing it at the rim. He's doing it from, not just the 3-point line, not just forcing shots over defenders. He's aggressive. He's doing it on both ends. That's, a whole nother story. A couple nice blocks on Morant tonight, and just all over the damn place. So I'm extremely impressed by Tatum. This was one of those games where I talked about it last year. If you're the opposing team, if you're going to this game because I want to watch Jason Tatum, he'll come here once a year, and I want to see this guy in real life. And anyone who had that thought, yeah, they walked out of there with an L tonight, but they saw a great show. They saw a great, one-on-one battle between Tatum and Ja. And I mean, what Tatum did in the first half, Ja did in the second half, or at least in the third quarter there. So very impressed by Tatum that jumps out at me watching this one.
Yeah, no question. I think you crushed that right there, Jimmy. Because these matchups, these type of matchups where he's going up against top tier talent like John Morant, and it's a showdown, and he's in his bag, and he actually went into angry Tatum, which I thought that was interesting to see because I like that. Obviously, that's what superstars do. That's what the great ones do, right? They get mad that things aren't going their way, and then they take matters into their own hands, and they dial that energy into converting easy baskets, but also making some tough ones, but just playing smart basketball. So I think you're spot on with that, Jimmy, especially because, arriving for the moment, who you're going up against, he's the talk of the league right now. Memphis Grizzlies were rolling heading into this one. They've been playing some great basketball. And that's the kind of matchup what's up?
I just was saying it's also hard to win there in Memphis.
Right, exactly. It's hard to win there. and you showed up. You showed up. I mean, it wasn't pretty towards the end. That's really unlike the Celtics to miss that that many free throws, especially those clutch ones. But Tatum made the most important ones. Grant Williams didn't disappoint as well. So it was a good win. It's a good character win for this team. Honestly, it's one of those games where I think we'll look back on early in the season and say, man, Tatum showed up for that showdown against John Morant.
Yeah. Looking at his second quarter, too, hit all 4 shots at the rim, 2 of 5 from 3, so he goes 6 of 10 in that quarter. No real mid-rangers from him in this game either through 3 quarters, so he's sort of embodying the shot selection that Joe Mazzulla wants the Celtics to roll with. Rim looks, he's pretty much providing all their rim looks. I thought Al Horford was good early in terms of getting downhill and finding those passes from Smart, the dump-offs, and this was a great Smart game. We'll get to him later.
Let's talk about Marcus, okay.
But in terms of Tatum, I disappeared a little bit in the third. He did find a way to sneak in one basket in the post at one point to, kind of stagger that Grizzlies run. They went from down 11 to up 1 in that third quarter where Ja was just going crazy. But then he comes back in the fourth, and that was really Jalen's quarter. But he did have a few moments there as well. So you had Tatum setting the table in the first half, disappearing a little bit in that third, and then coming back with a strong fourth quarter to help barely close this one out. But the most frustrating part of that mini collapse down the stretch there is that you do end up with this play as the possessions are getting closer and closer where he has to chase a loose ball at a half court with John Morant and buckles his knee in a really scary moment. I mean, just terrifying stuff on that play. His knee was kind of bending all over the place. He goes down and he gets up and kind of shakes it off. He was going back to it a couple of times on that play. So that's still something that's scaring me a little bit out of this one. And that was kind of the cost of the slippage down the stretch there, is that he had to be hustling for a ball at half court in a game that probably should have been over at that point, and tweaked his left knee pretty badly on that play. And fortunately was able to get up and finish the game.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
I mean, it was a little laying down there for as long as he did, but watching the replay, it didn't look like it was too much. So I think that they avoided something serious there. He might maybe a little sore. I'm sure he'll be icing it maybe a little bit after the game, but I'm not gonna hit the panic button like Bob. I'm going to just they get tomorrow off. They get another game.
No, it's just a play you don't want to see.
Oh, wait, I mean,
because they shouldn't have been in that situation, I guess is what you mean. But
listen, they gotta do better closing out teams, especially tonight. You had that 7-8 point lead with a minute to go there. I mean, hit your free throws. It's simple as that. I mean, it's no sense harping on it. I mean, you go to the line, they probably hit thousands and thousands of these things. So you just got to take care of business. They're lucky that Morant slipped there on that inbound, because he would have had some level, and it should never have gotten to that point. So it's a game of runs. I mean, the Celtics went on their run, the Grizzlies went on their run. I was glad to see the Celtics fight in that fourth quarter after letting the Grizzlies climb back in it there. I'm not like surprised to see, these are how these games go, especially right now. I mean, there's so much offense right now in the league. Teams can get hot very quickly. They go on runs. I think both probably tried. I think the coaches could try a little bit harder to call timeout a little bit sooner or stop these runs. But credit to the Celtics in that second quarter. I mean, it didn't matter what the Grizzlies did; they were just on point. All over the place. I'm going to bring up Marcus Smart too, because I think he's a reason why Jay able to score some of those baskets at the rim. Some of the looks he gave these guys. There it is, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists. Does that end up being I know he was flirting with a career high in assists, or am I way off there?
He had 11 yesterday, and I believe he's had more than 12 at some point in his career.
Either way,
this was one of his better,
really good night.
Better performances.
And that's why you see him there late in the games. When he's playing smart. Just 2 turnovers tonight. Forced one to Al a little bit late where he probably didn't need to. But I just think that
he had 13 against the
he's a
Jazz
guy
in
that
March.
Okay, so
Yeah.
right around there, right around high tonight. I'm sure could have easily got there, 1 or 2 shots. So, unbelievable, just great. Good to see Smart, getting comfortable, with the guys, Brogdon, whoever, So,
All right, looks like Jimmy's gone rock bottom with the
For a
Wi-Fi. He was hanging
second,
in
I
there
mean, it
for
was
a
a little
minute.
choppy, but yeah. But no, look, Bobby, you talked about Jason Tatum setting the table or setting the tone offensively. I thought that was Marcus Smart. I thought he was leading the offense perfectly in the sense of obviously making those sweet passes, the ones that were the oohs and ahs, those pocket passes down low, but also just knowing to make the right decision, knowing when to make the right decision, right? Knowing, to attack the rim like he's been doing the last week or so, but also find guys that the Memphis Grizzlies just weren't covering. And he just had a good eye. It seemed like he was a step ahead of Memphis's defense in that first half, and he was showing off a bit, right? He had the alley-oop to Tatum. He had those those pocket passes down low. He had the three going, that well-balanced attack. I mean, this is easily Marcus's best game of the season. And I love that about Marcus right now. I love that we were able to see this because people were growing concerned about him on the defensive end of the floor. People were growing concerned about the inconsistency on offense a bit. But this was one of those games where Marcus was really just sharp throughout and on both ends of the floor. And the Celtics needed that, especially because the Memphis Grizzlies, they always seem to be hanging around. Even when the Celtics did build that double-digit lead, it just evaporated quickly. They even pulled ahead throughout that humongous third quarter where John Morant went off. Sort of reminiscent of what Tatum did the quarter before, and then it made for that fourth quarter for the Celtics to just really put the clamps on defensively and create that separation. It did get interesting though. It got interesting at the end, but they took care of business. Like as they say, a win's a win. So
I was getting worried about Smart a couple of games ago. He had that great finish to the fourth.
Yeah.
He had that great finish to the fourth against the Cavs, then took that terrible shot in overtime that we talked about, harped on in that game. He sits most of the fourth quarter against the Bulls on Friday with the foul trouble, and he had been getting hit hard by DeRozan and others in that game. Had a 120 defensive rating a couple games ago. At that point. So you were worried. He had talked about the fall in Montreal too, in terms of the oblique that he's been dealing with forever, for years now, it seems like. And he said he wasn't as healthy as coming into this year to begin with. So this is finally, and Saturday too in New York, we were there, Josue, looking great, moving the ball and just focusing on that. There had been some games earlier this year where he got a little shot happy. In this one, always looking to pass, taking care of the ball, which is super important too. The Celtics have had turnovers popping up here there throughout this season, and always looking toward the rim too. And one of my favorite things about what he did tonight is he got Horford going, and this had to be Horford's best offensive game all season.
This was a good game for Horford, yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, and you saw Smart looking for him again and again.
Right, and that was important, especially against this team that they're not 100% in the front court. The Memphis Grizzlies, he had the 3 days off, and you could see that in that throughout the game, especially in the first half. He just kind of had that bounce to him. He was taking the ball down low, had his back to the basket, getting those easy twos, but he also just seemed a lot more, just a little more bounce to his step this time around, right? So I think that was that helped the Celtics a lot, and Marcus was making sure he was involved, so that's important too. He had three 3-pointers in this one. Al Horford continuing to knock those threes down. I mean, that's always going to help the Celtics in a big way. Their offense.
All right, Jimmy.
Can you hear me?
They're killing you. Are you back in action?
You tell me. I told you guys to let me know. I don't know why you didn't tell me. If I can't hear myself coming through, so
you sound loud and clear now.
Well, good. I don't know what the issue is. My connection's fine, but sometimes you got to reset. Sometimes you got to reset the browser or reset the Wi-Fi. It is what it is. But I'm back.
We know you've been watching YouTube highlights. X them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably got mad tabs open right now.
No, I know better because I don't want this crap to happen and have to deal with the freaking comments all the time. But it is what it is. Anyways, what did I miss?
We're talking Smart. The all good highlights will look good for Smart in this one. There were a few moments late. I know the commenters aren't loving, but this is overall one of the better games I've seen from him in terms of passing the ball and focusing on rebounding and doing all those little things we've asked him to do, cleaning up when necessary. He had that great 3-point play through Aldama at one point there. And overall, he's just responding well to some what were becoming pretty severe early season struggles. Almost looked like last year. Remember, he just couldn't hit a shot, wasn't in sync. It was worse last year, obviously, because he was disconnected with the Jays, and there was disagreements in terms of how to run the offense. This time, he was just kind of off to a slow start, and I thought he really broke out of it these last 2 nights.
Smart.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
He's getting this stride. He's getting into his stride. I always say the first couple, usually doesn't last this long, but the first couple of weeks, he's just kind of going through the motions and whatnot. And I wasn't worried, but obviously on the defensive end, that's so unlike Marcus. But he's this was an encouraging sign, obviously. And then who he is, or what he means to this team on the offensive end of the floor. I mean, that can't go unnoticed as well. We all appreciate what Malcolm Brogdon means to this team and what he's been doing, seamlessly fitting in. But you also can't take away from what Marcus is, who he means and what he means to this team. And I just think that's what makes a team so much stronger offensively when you have both of those guys. And yeah, Malcolm Brogdon wasn't as great as he's been all season long tonight. I don't think that was because of Marcus Smart. I just think this was that type of game where everything was just clicking for Marcus. And that tends to happen. That's a pattern that we'll see throughout the season.
And Joe Mazzulla in Memphis saying Jason Tatum is fine. So there's a good.
Suck it, Bobby.
Take
your panic elsewhere.
I love to see Tatum going down, grabbing his. That was great. I was very relieved to see that.
Jimmy, he's one way or the other, so he was a little panicked.
No, listen, Marcus
you never
Smart.
want to see, especially you never see Tatum down in pain.
Bobby, you want to go 20 minutes on why it's not good to see Jason Tatum get hurt? We can do it if you want. I don't know if that's riveting television for everybody. But
I was thinking midway through this one, I was like, if the Celtics win by like 20 or whatever, and it's a blowout win, I was like, Bobby might mention championship talk. Like he might be like, this team's gonna win the East. Like this offense, I don't see anyone stopping. Like I saw the whole thing coming, but then
this team's really good.
This one came down to the wire, so we didn't. We're not.
It was the Cavs last week, but now it might be back to the Celtics.
No, I still see holes in the Celtics. I'm giving the Bucks the benefit of the doubt right now. I still love the Cavs. They had a great win against the Lakers, but man, you're right there with them. And this is impressive stuff that this team's doing. I mean, to bring it back to Tatum, and Smart was great, obviously, in this one. We can get back to the defense in a minute. But offensively, like second chance baskets, I know they're kicking it out to 3 a lot of the time, but they're chasing those boards down. Grant has done a good job with that. The movement is just seamless. Like guys are getting right to the basket and kicking it out for wide open looks, especially, on Saturday, Jimmy, the game you missed. Record-setting performance in terms of that passing and shooting. And then all that movement, all that transition, Tatum, I'm still amazed at how much pace he's playing with, getting ahead of defenses again and again in this one. Real pep in his step. He was talking in New York how he stayed up till 3 on Friday and was pretty dead going into that game and still had a pretty epic performance in that one. And then on the third game in 4 nights, this team is still setting screens, cutting, running to the basket, chasing down offensive boards, playing in transition. I'm still searching for the answer in terms of what got into these guys, because all we did last year was scream at how offensively stagnant they were. Guys wouldn't move. Tatum would walk the ball up, and now you don't see any of it. Everyone's just committed to doing the right things on offense.
Well, yeah, guys are constantly cutting, setting picks. I mean, it's the whether it's the ball rotation or whether it's just guys knowing where to go. I mean, I think that's the biggest difference. You go to that preseason, even though it was a small sample size, I was like, man, this team can really. We saw a glimpse of what they can be offensively, and now we're seeing it. This is what week 3 weeks into the regular season. They're top of. When you look at the teams across the NBA, they're all the offensive statistical categories. I mean, they're either first or second or third. They just continue to climb, and this is another encouraging performance because even though I would have liked to see them hold the team to closer to 100 points, it wasn't anywhere near 120. So that's a step in the right direction for this team's defense.
Yeah, and I was going to get to that. I thought the defense tonight, even though I don't think the final number is going to look amazing here to bring back the final score.
Yeah.
On paper, 106. 106. That's a good number now, the way the teams are scoring in the league. This is one of the best offenses in the league you were going up against in this one, Jimmy. I was worried about how Smart, to go back to him, was going to be able to stay in front of Morant after I think he's gotten hit hard by a few of the guards that they've seen so far, especially DeRozan. And he was good. Tatum roamed around defensively. This team blocked a ton of shots early in the game. They were swarming Morant in the post and just smacking his layup attempts off the backboard. And you just saw so much activity. Guys were forcing others into bad shots. You finally saw this real intensity to the Celtics on that end of the floor that we've been looking for. And I think it almost solved that question we've been asking in terms of, all right, is this personnel? Is this scheme? Is this no Rob? Or is this just them not being intent and focused on that end? And when you finally saw that intensity on defense in this game, I think you saw a pretty high ceiling for that group. Again, this Grizzlies offense came into this game number 4 in the league, I think, and Morant's tearing everybody up, and you have all that shooting, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, all these different guys, and they were shut down for large stretches. What the Celtics go on an 18-0 run at one point in the second there?
20.
Yeah.
20-0, yeah.
Oh, ended up being 20?
20.
Yeah, that was through like 2 timeouts. I mean, they couldn't be stopped. I mean, just real quick back on the defense. I think we all know what they're capable of defensively. And yeah, sure, Rob's not on the court right now, but it's so much of it is, these are young, athletic guys who have all the energy in the world, and so much of defense is effort. And it's just playing as a team, playing connected. And when you don't see it, you almost feel like it's just because they don't want to, not because they can't. Because the talent's there, we know what they're capable of. So yeah, it was great to see the defensive intensity tonight. And a lot of times defense can turn to offense. That's pretty much how this team went on the run that they went in the second half of the year. They had a really, really stagnant offense for a lot of last year. And then when they started turning it up on the defensive end, they could get out and run more, score in transition. The guy that comes to mind, obviously, is Jaylen Brown, who's great at that. Now, we can get into Jaylen Brown whenever you guys want to, if you do want to. People say we don't talk about Jaylen Brown. People say we don't talk about Jaylen Brown on the show. Well, they might not like what we have to say when we do talk about him on a night like tonight.
John would have we would have led with that. We would have led with Jaylen.
John would have led with Brown. Yep.
Yeah.
Probably.
What are we doing here?
I know. What are we talking about here?
Give us
but if you want to,
you would have said
7 turnovers. Wow. Yeah, it was bad. Couple of travels. You had a couple offensive fouls from him. Again, this was something I saw on Friday. I wrote about it that night in the BSJ recap. Saturday, I don't think it was much better. He shot well in that game, but he's just dribbling into nowhere. And I feel like he's taken a step back with the ball handling, which is disappointing. I did see him in camp at times working on it, and it didn't even look great in camp for some reason. And I know people have talked about his hand size and stuff. And, again, like he's not his hand size. Like I think that plays into it. People have talked about he doesn't have the biggest hand. So that's like a reason that he's not as good of a dribbler as some other players. But he's been in the league a long time at this point. He's had stretches in his career where he's gotten better with it. And for some reason, it's not even the dribbling right now, right?
Tiny
it's where
Hands
he's
Brown.
going.
Are you calling him Tiny Hands Brown?
Well, that's the dribbling part. The awareness part is the big one, right? So Dylan Brooks, who was terrible in this game, missed a layup at one point. I think he got right by Brown on the play. Brown gets the board back, and I think he just dribbled right into Brooks again after that. And
Or you talking about the backcourt steal?
Yeah, the backcourt steal, and then he ends up playing. So they end up scoring on that play. This is really concerning because, again, we know he's not the best dribbler in the world. Why is he just dribbling into nowhere? That's my thing, because he wasn't doing that last year.
He kind of was. Well, not into nowhere, but he would rack up turnovers, especially in that.
Yeah, there'd be big turnover games, but again, it was the dribble. It was the loose dribble. A guy would strip him, maybe travel like we saw at points tonight. But in these last couple games, I just see him dribbling in the places where there's no end to the play. He just ends up throwing the ball out again to a teammate and hoping that they can get it out of there once he gets trapped. And there are good setups for him at times where he's rolling downhill and then he makes a quick pass out of the post. That's usually where he ends up looking great. But when he's setting up the play, it almost doesn't look like he knows where the end's going to be for that sequence.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of reminds me of it's like when it's like that one player in a pickup game who's just
It's
sort
a
of doing his own thing.
consistent problem.
Yeah, it's like it's not cohesive with the rest of the team. But again, I always say in the open floor when they're in attack mode and fast break, I mean that's when he's at his best. And I also think Memphis Grizzlies just did a really good job of cutting off the corners and defending him, but not to make excuses, for Jalen, but because there are stretches where he just seems to just lose control of the ball or seems to be attacking the rim, but without a path in mind. Sometimes he kind of just tries to run through the defense and it doesn't work out for him. But yeah, he's got to figure that out. He's got to find a way to stay in the zone, stay in the game. You talk about his awareness. I think that's an interesting point as well. It seems like, sometimes he's sort of out of sync with the rest of the team. So I'm not sure what that's about.
Did you call him Baby Hands Brown?
Nah, someone else just made that up.
I'm reading right now. So Jaylen Brown has what? 8.75. I don't know how they have width on hands. So all right.
Oh, you're looking this up.
Yeah,
you're actually looking this up. I thought you were about to give us a stat, but no, you are.
Yeah,
yes.
Go on. I think you're going to say plus minus because that wasn't good today.
So, again, I don't know how to stack this up against other players, but 8.75 inch length, 9-inch width.
All right. Let's just keep it moving. Let's just talk about something else. Before somebody clips that.
By comparison, Giannis 9.85.
You don't need to compare. You don't really need to compare.
So he's what, about an inch behind some of the bigger hands in the league.
Pause. I'm gonna pause.
John's cringing somewhere.
We're gonna let Bobby take it. We're gonna let.
Did you just dump Bobby?
We're gonna let Bobby take a breather for a second.
You just put him in a penalty box right now?
No, he's back. All right, he's good now. He's good.
I just wait again. I didn't pull that out of thin air. That's.
I don't.
No, we believe
I
you.
bet you didn't. I bet you didn't. I was thinking more with Jalen. It's to me. To me, it's not so much the hands. I think it's more,
not the hands. It's not the dribbling. It's right now. It's the awareness.
It's the head. It's the head. It's up here is what I'm thinking right now for Jalen. I don't know if
checks. I don't want to say checks out, but maybe he just sort of is a step behind sometimes. I guess that's a better way to put it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an approach. Everybody on this offense right now knows their role. They're in the positions.
Last year. Maybe not a lot, but we saw that. But we've seen this before, right?
We've seen it when I think he tries to go into creation mode, and there's some stretches where I think you want to utilize his downhill activity, his ability to get into the lane and draw at contact, especially in transition. Like you want him handling the ball in transition because he's going to get right to the rim ahead of everybody, draw contact, and score. Let's not forget he was great in the fourth tonight. I thought he answered so well to just being completely out of it in the third. He had a couple downhill drives and looks a really tough finish through traffic at one point there. He had a steal on John Conchar and drew that clear pass foul that Hauser got a couple free throws on. So he was everywhere in the fourth. This wasn't a bad Brown game. It was a bad Brown start. And it's just some things we've seen from him throughout this season so far that have limited him from being the player he can be, which is what's he aiming for this year? All-Star, All-NBA. He wants to be eligible for that big contract. He's got to be better than this.
Bold
we were talking about him being neck and neck with Tatum, and Tatum has taken a huge leap. Brown, a guy who throughout his career to this point has gotten better every single year, doesn't look better coming into this year.
Well, the one thing I don't want to do is take Tatum's, kind of ascension here or growth and elevation. I don't want to use that against Brown because maybe last year it was Brown who, we saw at the start of the season really take a huge leap, and maybe it was Tatum who kind of had a slower start, and we were talking about this in the opposite sense. So, again, I know that we're a handful of games into the year, and everyone has, their opinions on what they're seeing out there, and for me, it's not so much look how much better Tatum is than Brown. It's just, wow, Tatum's really, really good right now. He's on one, and maybe that means that both players can't be playing, at that elite level at the same time. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be games where Brown can get there, but I think sometimes you just got to let the dog eat, and right now Tatum's that dog and everybody else is just feeding him, and that includes Brown, and in some games it might be Brown being that guy, or so
right.
It's just the way it is right now. I hope that that's I know that also there were some off the court, sort of distractions for Jaylen Brown for a bit. I don't know if that's bothering him.
I don't think I'm not gonna go there. I don't think
Yeah, I
so.
thought that too, Jimmy, and I was like, yeah, and then I just thought what Bobby just said, right? I was like, I don't know.
I'm
But
completely wrong. Okay, that's cool. Next.
I mean, it's
No, but I
possible.
mean, it can't help to be having to answer
Yeah.
those types of questions. I mean, I even saw another quote today about now it's about Kyrie. Before it was about Kanye. It's like it can't just be about basketball right now with him. There's other things going on, and I
There's a
know
lot
that.
going on. Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
So I don't
I
know if
mean,
I'm not saying that that's it. I'm just trying to think of reasons why maybe
yeah,
he doesn't look completely like himself or completely engaged out there the way we've seen him in the past. Because we know, skill wise, we know he put the work in over the offseason. We know he's got the skills to, be, a better player than what we've seen. So I don't know what it is. It could just be an off couple of games and he'll get back to
yeah.
what he's good at doing again. But
I'm
there is
still,
definitely
yeah,
something off with him, and certainly when you compare it to the way Tatum's playing right now, yeah, it's going to look even more drastic. But I just think Tatum will make anybody look like a lesser basketball player out there right now. That's just how he's playing the game. Everything's coming a lot easier to him. I think the biggest knock I used to have on Tatum and Brown was that it was so hard for them to everything was so hard for them. Getting baskets, scoring, getting to the line. Everything was so difficult, but it feels like with Tatum right now, he just gets into a mentality where he just wants to be a killer, and he goes out there and does it. And I don't think Jaylen
yeah,
Brown has that mentality right now.
Well, to give
right. And
Brown
I
some
think
credit.
Tatum. Well, I just think Tatum's adapted quicker, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's whether people want to say it's him taking another step in his, progression. Sure, okay, because that's what he's been doing his first month of the season, and I think he's gonna come into his own. I mean, look, whether it's 46, 47% from the floor, like that's who he is. That's his track record. So I don't think this year will be any different. If anything, it's encouraging that he's averaging over 24 points a game because that's only going to go. I mean, his shooting percentage will only go up. And I think one of the things that, again, just if we're talking about the two, comparing the two, who's having the better start compared to the other, Tatum's also just been doing a good job of reading defenses. I mean, Bobby, I think you're spot on with sometimes the direction that he's going in isn't the best option. And Tatum has just been quicker with reading opposing defenses and making those decisions quicker than Jaylen Brown, who sometimes takes a few more dribbles before he realizes what he wants to do. And defenses are hip to that. He's in game plans. Teams are scouting for him at a higher level now compared to last year. So he's going to adjust, though. I'm not concerned about it, but I think the Celtics are in really good shape despite that, right? I mean, once that comes along, it'll only help this team and this team's offense and the way they've been clicking right now. So,
And yeah, to clarify here, I don't think any of us are saying he's playing bad. He's having a solid start.
No, I'm not saying he's
You know,
playing bad. He's just not playing up to the level that we've seen him play. And there are definitely some instances where he looks, I don't want to say disengaged, but he just doesn't look as, he's not Jaylen Brown out
Sharp.
there.
I could
Yeah,
clip a
exactly.
million. I
Sharp.
could clip a
Thank you.
million.
Sharp.
I could
the
clip a
preseason,
million
he looked
plays.
incredible.
I could clip a million plays right now of him driving into nowhere. We've seen it again and again.
Right.
And when you
I
look
don't know
at
what this means. What does this mean? JT 2.8
turnovers, which
turnovers.
Tatum has the ball.
Okay,
Tatum has the
gotcha.
ball a lot more.
2.8 turnovers a game. Gotcha.
Tatum
Thanks
has
for
the
the money,
ball a
though.
lot more.
It's
So
cool. Don't worry about that.
you can say whatever. What was the one? Someone sent like a wacky trade, but they put in $20. So it was like, all right, we'll entertain it.
Yeah, I wouldn't just look at the stats and be like, oh, they're both averaging 2.8 turnovers a game. They must both be playing equally this way or that way. You got to watch the games to really see. And I'm sure that commenter does, but it goes
Watch
kind
the
of
game.
beyond. It goes beyond the style. You can't just
Use the eye test.
you can't just read the sheet music. You got to listen to the song.
That's
You know
the
what I
thing,
mean?
right? There could be plays where Brown dribbles into nowhere and gets it out to someone, and it's not a turnover, but it's still not exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, well, you don't have a whole lot of time when he does that thing where he jumps in the air, turns around, and has like 2 point seconds to make a decision. Like
We've seen him do that a couple of times too, right? And those have been assists because he gets it over to Tatum and he hits it. But overall, I think he's still acclimating to this role he started to embrace last year, where he's more of a finisher. I think he's playing off of Tatum, Brogdon, the pressure those guys are drawing, and when he's at his best, he's playing close to the basket. His shot has slipped a little bit over the last 2 years here. So again, I think you'd rather see him near the basket more than shooting a ton of threes. And that's a bigger conversation we're having with this team right now in terms of how many threes they're shooting. So I think he's still finding his place in all of this. It's just about cutting down the turnovers. I think being more direct in his offense and, more often than not, embracing that finisher role. So here's the thing, and he's talked about this early this year. He still has aspirations for becoming a facilitator, a playmaker. What Ime kind of saw in him to some degree. And Tatum has kind of taken that and run with it more than Brown has. But I feel like it's been a challenge for Brown. In fact, at one practice, he was just doing pick and roll after pick and roll with Kabengele, really trying to get that down. And he doesn't get the opportunities to do it as often as others. Maybe if he was in a different situation where he was the star of a team, he'd be able to take strides with that. But on this team right now, his job prevents him from becoming this great playmaker. So it's going to be interesting because he's been very clear. He wants to become a playmaker. He wants to become a facilitator. And when you have Smart, when you have Brogdon, when you have Tatum, when you have Horford even, who I think has been great at times passing the ball over the last couple games here, there's not necessarily a ton of opportunity for Brown to have the ball in his hands and make some things happen outside of transition.
So you're saying he feels left out? What are you saying, Bob?
Facts, my dog.
I think he wants to grow and expand his game. And, it's a balance, right? Because you'd love to see him.
Well, he had a chance to win the game the other night, Bobby. What did he do? He didn't.
It's a balance.
Come through, right?
I like that. It's a balance. That's what I always say when I have no idea.
He'll get his spots. He'll get his spots.
I have no idea
exactly.
what else to say.
Yeah,
it's a balance.
Tim just said, then fix your handles.
Oh man!
What else you guys?
Again, I'm just trying to provide some insight. It's a possible explanation. It wasn't a diss. All right, okay. What do we got? Another $5 flowing in. Tatum has the ball more, but Brown leads the team in shot attempts. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Is that true?
I don't know. You posted it. It better be true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's what when I posed in the bold predictions that Brown was going to be right there, if not surpassing Tatum in terms of scoring.
You said more.
Yes. So this is what I predicted. Tatum would be focusing more on playmaking. Brown would be focusing more on scoring. It's just that Brown's efficiency, and we've known Brown to shoot 50, sometimes 54% from the field. He's at 45% to start this year. I don't know what you guys are seeing in terms of why that efficiency has dropped off.
The offense is a bit, the pace of it is different now compared to last year. I mean, that could be part of it as well. And then also you're not capitalizing.
Good point.
You're not capitalizing on those defensive stops that was your backbone last year, right? That was the identity of your team.
Good point. Transition.
Yeah, I mean, we're thinking it's going to come along soon, not just because Rob Williams will be back. And I don't know. Well, soon wouldn't be for Rob Williams, but you're hoping that this team can find a way to improve defensively, even though their offensive numbers are through the charts. But I think that plays a part, especially for someone like Jalen, who got a lot of those. He was the main beneficiary of a lot of those stops in the fast break and transition.
Yep.
Bobby, let's pay the bills.
There it is, Jaylen Brown. We brought him up.
Yeah, we talked about it. We got people in the comments being like, "You guys are still talking about Jaylen Brown, so we can't win. We can't win. We either don't talk about Brown at all, or we talk about him too much." Anyways, let's pay the
Garden
bills.
Report
Bob.
Brought to you by Calm. I'm gonna calm down. I'm freaking out over Tatum. I'm freaking out over Brown's start to the season.
Hand size.
I gave a lot of credit to Smart, and I really like what the team's doing so far. You can nitpick it because we have high expectations of them. But they've looked good so far, so I'm going to calm down. Going to go to the Calm app after this. We had a long weekend, 3 games in 4 days, back and forth between New York. I'm going to try to get some extra sleep tonight, and when I need to do that, I'm always going to Calm, calm.com. It has everything you can imagine in terms of relaxation. When you go to calm.com/garden, you get 40% off their premium subscription. That's sleep sounds, meditation, yoga, a little bit of everything in there, Jimmy.
Sleep stories,
even bedtime stories.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, they keep adding new sleep stories. They just keep adding them. I mean, stories on top of stories.
Well, you don't want to hear the same one twice.
Well, you'll be surprised. Sometimes you get hooked on a story and it actually helps. It's kind of soothing. You just listen to the same one a couple of times. But they've got some new ones in there. But yeah, music, they've got music that's just unique to the Calm app. So you can't even hear this stuff anywhere else.
Exclusive.
And I'm talking legitimate artists, not just, bells and whistles. It's actual artists that and you listen to on the radio and whatnot. So there's a lot going on in the Calm app, and you can get 40% off right now, which is a great deal. Something that you can use, something that maybe a significant other or a family member you think might find it helpful for
It's
them.
gift time. You're hearing Christmas music.
It's gonna happen
Yo,
fast.
Christmas is
I've already got
everywhere, man.
I got Christmas music going already. A lot of people think that's a problem. I'm actually a big Christmas music guy. I like to get in the spirit early on.
Even in the 70 degrees, you're getting in the spirit.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's a little bit more difficult. I'm not blasting it like this weekend when it's 70 degrees, but tomorrow it's supposed to get a little chilly again, so you might hear a couple of Christmas songs coming from the car speakers, but that's getting off track a little bit. But anyways, calm.com/Guardian. Check it out, guys, if you haven't yet. And then I think we also have another very good friend of the show, Athletic Greens.
Yep.
AG1.
So let me tell people what this is.
Okay.
Again, I don't think everybody knows. It's a powder that you put in your water every morning, and I'm gonna spell out exactly what's in it because it's gonna there's so much in it, so much good stuff that you gotta just spell it out. So it's 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, probiotics for your gut health, and adaptogens. I still gotta look that one up. To help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients to support your gut health, as I said, nervous system, help you function, help you be fluid, your immune system, that one's super important once it does get cold, and it's gonna this week. Your energy, that's everybody. Recovery, focus, and aging. Listen.
Big one right there. Oof.
Listen, you can get a month of this. Try it out. The reviews are through the roof. That's the big thing. You don't even have to believe us. Just go to anywhere that they sell it, and it's 5 stars, 5 stars. People love it. They're shelling out big money for this stuff, and they are going to give you 5 free travel packs when you make your first purchase here. Not to mention, when you get a month of it, you get this cool bottle. It's not in front of me, but I've been drinking out of it nonstop. You get this great container to store it in. It's just a cool product, cool brand. And it really is something we've loved. We've taken pretty much every day for 3-4 months now. And the whole CLNS family is really loving this stuff. So a year's supply of vitamin D as well. Again, that's the immune boosting vitamin D that they're going to throw in here. 5 free travel packs of, again, that powder. You just pour in your water every morning.
Toss it in the bag. Yeah, you're going on a little weekend trip. You want to take a couple of packages with you. You're going to need some extra nutrients. Let's say you're going away on a golf trip or a bachelor party, and you want to make sure you bring one thing that you do good for your body that weekend would be just a little quick, like you said, Bobby, just toss it in a little water in the morning, and down the hatch we go.
Yep, sure thing. athleticgreens.com/garden. Only other thing I had today, and I almost forgot to mention this, the Celtics did get a disabled player exception for Danilo Gallinari. And I believe it's worth about $3 million.
Nice.
You can use it to sign a player. You can use it to trade for a player like a TPE. It works like that. They have it until a certain point later in the season. There's a deadline for it, and it pretty much you get it if the league deems that it's more likely than not that player is going to miss the season. And I think we've all kind of looked at Gallinari's injury, his age, second tear to that ACL, and said it's probably not going to happen this year. But he's been in the facility working out. I think he's really intent on getting back this year. I don't think the Celtics officially ruled him out. I don't know. Did they rule him out for the year, Josue, in their statement?
They didn't. They didn't.
All right.
I mean, whether they do or whether they don't, I mean, yeah, they're not going to push him to come back. Obviously, it's going to be completely reliant on how he feels and what the doctors say. What's it, 3.24 million exception?
Yeah, half of his contract, and he was on like a mid-level there. So yeah, it's not a ton of money, and it's less than the 2 TPs that you already have.
Mm-hmm. So once they use it, though, does that mean Gallinari, obviously he can't come back at that point?
No, so it's ruled. It's
3.2
million. It's ruled that he's unlikely to come back, and that's why they get it. but he can come back. It doesn't prevent him
Gotcha.
from coming back. So if he
Right.
has a very quick recovery here, he could still come back. They could still use it. Again, I believe there's a deadline at some point that you have to use it by, but if you decide that someone lower on the
March
roster,
10th.
yes.
March 10th.
So if you decide your roster's full right now, that's the thing, right? You can't use a TP, you can't use unless you're trading someone out. But if you do decide to waive someone lower on the roster who's on a non-guaranteed deal, like a Justin Jackson, I think Noah Vonleh's in that situation as well. But though, again, he's proven to be a pretty capable third-string center here with Luke Cornett out the last couple games. It gives you some flexibility here. Gives you some flexibility. You can go out instead of signing a guy for the minimum, $2.9 million. You can sign someone for $3.2 million. And for everybody dreaming of Dwight Howard, he's off to Taiwan. So cross him off the list.
Yeah, is that legit? I saw that floating around Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah, he put a video up and everything.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
So don't think we'll see Dwight in Boston this year. Again, we've gone over all the different veterans out there. The Celtics already signed Blake Griffin among that
people
group.
People keep
so.
saying Boogie Cousins in here.
People still want Boogie.
Yeah, what do people want? 9 centers on the roster? Like, it's unbelievable how much.
I'll tell you what.
It,
I watched as a YouTube highlight guy. I recently watched a highlight of Taco Fall. I had my jaw hit the floor. The guy looks like he looks like Shaq over there.
They've seen Yao Ming.
Yeah, he was balling out.
This is another level.
He might be getting the call back. He might be getting the call back on.
Credit to Taco. I mean, the growth he accomplished. I think he started playing in like his teens, late teens, and by the end of his time in Boston, he had gotten so much better. Now I don't know if he was good enough to play in the NBA. I know Jimmy, you were a big fan, but you gotta give that guy
got some big
credit.
Hands.
Oh, want me to hop on Google?
Let's look those puppies up. Yeah.
Well, Brad Stevens was always adamant about his development. It was like, okay, listen, this guy isn't just like a sideshow. He's not just like, oh, look at how tall this guy. Everyone wants to see him, just play basketball and amazed at how tall he is. Like, no, this guy actually he's improving. And obviously, the Celtics just had to go in a different direction. But yeah, I mean, who's to say that he can't make his way back to the NBA? We've seen players do that before. It's actually kind of been a trend if you think about it the last 10 years or so. I mean, it's not something that these guys don't come back as all-stars or premier all-stars, but they certainly come back as everyday players that hop onto a team and become part of their rotation. So
hey, shout out to Vonleh, who was in China for a year before this, and
there's an example, right?
Solid minutes in this one. I know you're a fan as well, right? Jimmy is too. He was great in New York. All of a sudden, Luke Cornett, he's called off the court midway through the first quarter with some personal reasons, and Vonleh's right back in the rotation, giving you some solid minutes. So, Brad, to mention him, deserves some credit. There were a bunch of guys on this roster in camp. Jake Layman, Bruno Caboclo was in there for a minute. It was a bunch of just veterans rolling in and out of the Auerbach Center all summer. Mm-hmm. And it looks like the guy they signed was a pretty good player for a 15th man on your roster.
And that's what we have to remember. He's supposed to be a deep depth type of guy. I think they will probably find themselves use him more often than they would want to or think that they need to at times. But I think he's capable of contributing at some capacity. I don't think he's going to give you 25 minutes a game. I think that's pretty safe to say. But he can go in there. He hustles. I think, he gets some bad foul calls against him sometimes, which throw some respect on my guy's name a little bit, But I like what he's given. I mean, tonight wasn't really an example, of course, of him giving you much out there. But there have been situations where he's been able to come in. And they're going to need that. Listen, the second unit, bench unit guys, Brogdon talked about it after, I think it was a couple games ago. They're expected to be the best. They want to be the best second unit in the league. So some of those players are going to be rotating in from time to time, whether it's Hauser, Vonleh.
Have you been impressed with them? We talked about them on Friday.
The second unit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you can't be. Although it seems like at times they do fall into some scoreless droughts, and I don't know if that's I like Tatum with them, but I guess I would like Tatum with anybody. But you don't want to have your stud sitting too long, but I like the way they're able to play with each other. Like, obviously, Brogdon sort of leading that unit. He's the perfect guy for that because, he gives you something on both ends. He's pretty cool, calm, and collected out there. I don't know how anyone could disagree. That leadership quality can kind of pace that second unit, like Brown in or Tatum in. That's just enough to sort of get that rest for the starters that you need and not take too much of a hit on the production side. Where it was the Grizzlies tonight, for example, they took Morant out, and that was it for them. I mean, he pretty much looked like a one-man show out there. And that's exactly what you don't want to fall into if you're a team that wants to contend. If you look at the Grizzlies, they got 30 from Morant, but really not much. I mean, Brooks had a tough shooting night.
Brooks was so bad, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bane I thought was really hot and cold. I mean, he came on a little bit later, but they just didn't have much from their other performers, their other guys that are expected to perform. So all that to say, yeah, I've been pretty impressed with the second unit, and I think that if they can stay on the court, stay healthy, that's important depth to have right there.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be a show without John if I didn't throw up a shot chart.
You got a shot chart for us?
Yep. Let's look at the Celtics defense. I want to give them credit for this because you said it there, Jimmy, before we head out of here. The Grizzlies really fought the concept that the Celtics have been rolling with in terms of making teams shoot mid-rangers, not letting them shoot rim looks, forcing them to go to that mid-range area. And the Grizzlies weren't really with that in this game. They were going to the rim a ton. They were shooting a bunch of threes in this game. And I'm trying to put it up, but my point I'm trying to make here is that the Grizzlies didn't roll with that, and the Celtics still held them to 45% from the field. And that's one of the best offenses in the league. And the Celtics, I think this was your point to open the show, Jimmy, held the lead for pretty much all but a tiny stretch of the opening of the fourth quarter. Same deal with the Knicks. Knicks never led in the second half on Saturday. Bulls never led in the second half on Friday. So really good 3-game stretch here. No shot chart, but you get the idea.
Dude, you promised us a shot chart.
Really want it? All right, here we go.
Can you pull it up on your...
You just say that.
I'm going to pull up the full capabilities of our friend Restream. Oh, no, it's not letting me. My browser won't let me. Go to the NBA.com.
You're going to do what I do and toss it up on the phone and then throw it up on the screen.
Yeah, Jimmy would have been doing that.
That's a great idea, Jimmy.
Just picture it, guys. Just picture a shot chart. I know it's like really riveting stuff. You see one, you've seen them all.
Just picture it. All the shots in the paint, all the shots from 3 Grizzlies, and a bunch of misses. 55% of those shots that went up missed. And I'm going to get it here on my phone, Jimmy style. Ready? Here it comes.
Yep, let's see it.
This actually might work. This might work.
Be careful, though. Check.
Yeah.
Check to make sure you don't have the wrong.
We might be able to see
thing up over there.
Hold on, I'm Xing out the hand size chart here.
Yeah, yeah, I bet you are.
Here we go. Look at that. Oh, hold on.
Oh, trust this computer. What's that supposed to mean?
What you got there? Yeah, what's going on?
Look at that.
Yeah.
That is improvement on defense.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you?
You can only imagine what that would have looked like on the big screen. All right, we'll call it there. Good show, guys.
You gonna put a ball on
Pistons on Wednesday. Celtics back at TD Garden. They'll take on Sherrod's Pistons, a team that's been really rough despite making some offseason improvements to start this year. Celtics play them Saturday in Detroit as well. Nuggets in town on Friday. So a good chance for the Celtics against some really bad defenses. Nuggets have been pretty bad on defense to start this year. Pistons, worst defense in the NBA.
Don't sleep on the Pistons, man, though. They got a young, talented team.
I'll say this. When they played Boston last year, they gave them as much trouble as anyone.
That could be a tough.
Beat them? Yeah, they beat them.
They beat them during that 22-3 run. And the end of the year, they had a really tough game with them, too. But, again, this level you're at right now, you should be making easy. You should be getting extra rest at the end of a game with the Pistons.
Cade Cunningham, Josue's guys, Sadiq Bey.
I hope Buddy Boeheim's making the trip.
My favorite nickname, I think, in the NBA, Beef Stew.
Beef Stew. They got a couple of rookies, Ivy and Duren. And then
I still
you got
think about
Buddy
that, like,
Boeheim on the two-way deal. I hope he'll
I
maybe
think
making the
so.
trip.
Oh, your guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be great. But I'd imagine he's in the G League. G League season started this week. For everybody asking about Kabengele, he was called up for this game, but DMP,
Kevin.
JD Davison's been playing up in Maine. I'm going to try to get up there this year for a game. You ever been up there, Jimmy?
I've never actually watched a game there. I've been to Portland, but I've never been up there for a game. No.
I'm thinking
Yeah,
about making a
Portland's
trip
fun.
at some point.
We should do a we can
Let's
take
do
the
it.
train from Boston to
From
Portland.
North Station?
Yeah, we should do a show on the train.
All right. And Tim sent us restaurant recommendations. We're bringing this together.
I've been
All right.
I've been to Duck Fat. That is a good spot.
Is it? What they got?
I don't know, seafood and like everything else that Portland
Oh,
has to
sounds
offer.
good to me.
Poutine.
Poutine.
I want to say.
I'm a big fan. Seafood.
Yeah,
though,
this is
I
what we'll
can
do. We'll do an episode on the train.
They have
Piss off the
poutine up there?
entire coach.
We're going the quiet car. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't like it? Sorry. We're doing a podcast.
This is the Garden Report.
That's actually that'd
Portland's
be a funny,
great.
funny segment. We could
Portland's a
record
great
that.
little
That's
town. I
actually-
mean, and it's not that far from Boston at all. It's really not. But
No, I'm sure the train will
Maine's
get you
just
right up
awesome
there.
in general. But Portland's
We'll
a lot
have
of fun.
we'll have to do an afternoon game though, so we don't get left up there. All right,
Oh
that's
no,
our
I'm staying the
show.
night. We do an afternoon game. We go out after the games.
Oh, all right. There
Take
might be
Portland.
if there's a live show, we might have a lot of people coming up with us. We'll work on this. We'll get John
Yeah.
up there too.
Main
All right,
fan.
Let's do it.
Wednesday Pistons. I guess we're doing a show with Max on Thursday. Is that out there, Josue, yet?
Yep. Stay tuned for that. It's coming up.
Cedric Maxwell podcast. Me and Josue joining him on Thursday in
Nice.
East Boston, live edition of the show. So we'll have more details on that as well. And that's our show for tonight. Again, check out athleticgreens.com/garden for a year's supply of vitamin D. I know we tell you about every night, but these are some great offers. Take advantage, support the show. athleticgreens.com/garden, year's supply of vitamin D. 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. And like I said, there's a lot more you can get with that product, and it's a great one. And com.com/garden, that's an easy one. Hop right on your phone, type it in. You're going to get 40% off a great library of relaxing content. Jimmy, thanks for being with us late night. Josue, appreciate you being back in Boston
Good
after
seeing
a
you,
good
fellas.
trip out there. Check out
Yeah,
our
you
coverage
guys-
from New York.
Absolutely.
You guys like get after it out there in New York? You guys get into some
Yeah,
trouble?
we had a
or
fun
what?
night.
Maybe we did a
Wow,
little of that.
'cause
We had the extra hour, Jimmy. You know,
I heard some
daylight savings.
stories.
The clock
So
moved
You guys
back.
had like basically up until 5 a.m. You could have theoretically stayed out.
Maybe we did.
We were confused. The clock was making our heads spin. Everyone
So
gets
you
screwed
were out
by
late
that
enough
clock
for the
change.
clock. Oh, so you were out late enough for the clock changeroo.
Depends. I don't know what time it changed exactly, but
I have sources.
I think it did.
I have some
All right.
sources.
That's our show. Jimmy, thanks. Josue,
All right,
we'll talk
fellas.
to you Wednesday at the Garden. And
Absolutely.
thanks, everybody.